Today is Tuesday, June 30th, 2026. Coming up, a Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The Supreme Court voted on the citizenship issue, the 14th Amendment. Folks are excited, but Justice Correspondent Ellie Mistel says, pump your brakes. It's not the clear victory that you think it is. And man, oh man, did Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson tear a new ass into Uncle Clarence Thomas. We'll tell you exactly what took place. Supreme Court also is going to allow no spending caps when it comes to federal elections. We'll break that down as well. Folks, 7 million people enrolled in the Biden-era Save Repayment Plan. They got 90 days to find a new one. Those failing to do so will face serious consequences. We'll talk to an expert about that. We'll also continue to talk about this GOP war on Black America. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling.
Today, last day of the Supreme Court's term, and a couple of decisions came down that are crucial. One of them dealt with the issue of the 14th Amendment and ending birthright citizenship. Donald Trump, the twice impeached criminally convicted con-man-in-chief, issued an executive order to end birthright citizenship. But how can you do that? How can an executive order be issued to end a constitutional amendment? All right. Justice Clarence Thomas, who agreed with Trump, said the court today takes the extraordinary step of holding facially unconstitutional the president's order excluding from citizenship the children of foreign temporary visitors and illegal aliens. Okay, gotcha. Ellie Mistel, Justice Correspondent for The Nation, Ashley Burrell, who is Senior Counsel for the Legal Defense Fund, and Damario Cooper, Executive Director of the Center for Powerful Democracy, join us right now. Glad to have all three of you here. Let's get right into this. Ellie, what the hell was decided today? And you have written that people who are excited about this ruling should really slow down and really understand what was said in the dissents.
Yeah. Absolutely, Roland. Thank you so much for having me today. Yes, the court ruled that Trump's executive order is unconstitutional and that the 14th Amendment means what it says it means, right? That it's right there in our face. Everybody who is born here, regardless of the blood of their parents, regardless of where their parents come from, everybody who is born here is a citizen of the United States. That is the clear, plain language of the 14th Amendment. And the court upheld that 5-4. On the statutory issue, there's a federal law that just repeats the 14th Amendment, and on the federal law, the court upheld it 6-3, or revoked Trump's executive order 6-3. But on the core constitutional question of whether or not the 14th Amendment applies equally to all children born here, not just white children, not just children of American citizens, it was only 5-4. And so when I say pump the brakes, understand that those 4 dissents laid out the exact roadmap Trump is supposed to follow, that they hope Trump follows, or whoever succeeds Trump follows, in order to eventually overcome the decision today and eventually get rid of birthright citizenship. And if you don't believe me with that, about that's how these people think, I refer you simply back to Roe v. Wade. I refer you back to the fact that Republicans spent 49 years trying to overcome Roe v. Wade, while the Democrats were running around saying, hey, Roe v. Wade, we won. We don't have to do anything else to protect abortion through legislation or defense because Roe v. Wade, we're all good. And now Roe v. Wade is gone. And if the Democrats take the same approach to Trump v. Barber, to birthright citizenship, it won't take Republicans another 49 years to get rid of this. They are coming for it, and they will have that decision overruled within all of our lifetimes if we don't do more to shore up and support birthright citizenship.
You made that point, and this Supreme Court, this extreme court, has history with that in terms of where, as opposed to just issuing a judicial ruling, they sort of explain a pathway to get to their actual aim. They've done this before.
Kavanaugh, in his concurring opinion, says that all the federal government needs to do is change the federal law, and then the 14th Amendment magically goes away, according to Kavanaugh. Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito both said that the Trump administration should really focus on people, on this issue of people who are domiciled here. They contend that people on temporary visas, like a work visa or whatever, are not domiciled here. Where are they domiciled? Back in their home countries. That makes no sense, Roland. If you work in a place and you live in a place and you raise a family in a place, you are domiciled in that place. You're not domiciled somewhere else, right? If you move from Michigan to Ohio, you're not still domiciled in Michigan, even if you still root for the Wolverines, right? That's just not how it works. But Thomas and Alito say that that's how it could work if Trump makes that specific argument. So throughout all of these dissents, there are very specific arguments that the Supreme Court dissent want Trump to make in order to perhaps one day overcome birthright. You have to also remember that there was kind of a split here in terms of Trump going after 2 different groups of people at the same time. On the one hand, he was going after legal immigrants, people on temporary work visas or what have you, and trying to deny rights to their children. On the other hand, he was going after undocumented immigrants, people who have technically no legal right to be here, and going after their children as well. He was trying to do that both in the same executive order, and the Supreme Court is kind of saying, split those 2 people apart. Make one argument against the temporary people, make a different argument against the undocumented people, and I don't know, maybe we get to 5 votes. That's what the Supreme Court is saying throughout its dissents. While John Roberts, in his 30-page majority opinion, dude, this was a 194-page opinion. John Roberts's majority controlling opinion is almost perfunctory in that context. It's short. He's kind of saying, well, all the dissent is wrong. Birthright citizenship is just a thing. Yay. Right. And maybe that's something that he holds on to. But you're now resting the entire foundational principle of American citizenship on the very narrow shoulders of John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett. And again, when we go back to Roe v. Wade, we've tried that before. We've tried resting an entire regime of human rights on the shoulders of just a couple of Republican justices, and you see what happened.
You also had in a sense, a judicial ass kicking between Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and Clarence Thomas. Explain.
So, Roland, you ever go to like a party and there's like one black guy at the party and he's just talking all kinds of smack?
It's happened many times.
Right? And then another black person shows up and that first black person gets real quiet. That's kind of what's happening to Clarence Thomas, because this man went out here and said that the 14th Amendment only applies to black people. And that is shocking to me, given that Clarence Thomas consistently says that the Constitution is colorblind. It's colorblind every time we ask for rights. It's colorblind every time we ask for voting rights. It's colorblind every time we ask for affirmative action. But for citizenship, oh no, the Constitution was only for black people, according to Clarence Thomas. And boy, Ketanji Brown Jackson just had time for that ass in her concurrence today, where she just ripped Thomas apart based on the history of the 14th Amendment and what Black people at the time who supported the 14th Amendment, what they thought it meant to them. And she makes the excellent point, I think, that this idea that citizenship would just be conferred to former enslaved Africans was not the view of those former enslaved Africans in real time. They obviously thought that their children, their friends' children, knew Africans who were going to come over, that their children would also be citizens. And Jackson explains that Thomas is just making it up, talking out of the back of his ass as he goes.
Ashley, Jackson writes, here we go to my iPad, consensus about the 14th Amendment's central motivation does not justify Justice Thomas's myopic treatment of it. The amendment caused a paradigm shift in the trajectory of our nation. The teacher who scolds a student for bullying a classmate hopes the student learns the broader lesson of treating everyone with kindness, not just that one kid. In the aftermath of the Civil War, those who championed the 14th Amendment, both within and beyond Congress, understood the assignment. Their work product used language that transcended race and region and thereby changed and broadened the meaning of freedom for all Americans. Instead of the limited salve the principal dissent makes it out to be, the Citizenship Clause reflects this universalist approach.
Yes, that's right. Justice Jackson was writing in direct response to what Thomas wrote in his dissent. She was very clear, and she went to the history that the 14th Amendment, the folks who enacted the 14th Amendment viewed this as a direct repudiation to Dred Scott, but to ensure that citizenship was for all, that it could not be picked up by the legislator to decide who becomes a citizenship, who becomes a citizen, who doesn't. And they wanted to make sure that citizenship would be granted to everyone if you're born on U.S. soil, irrespective of race, irrespective of region, nationality. And so it was a goal meant to ensure citizenship to freed Black African Americans, but also to everyone. And that is what she got at in her concurrence.
What's also amazing, Demario, when you read her concurrence, is that she literally lays out this history of what Black people had to endure, not being seen as proper citizens. You know, these people always talk about assimilate, and she says, well, they were deemed that they couldn't assimilate. And she takes us through Fugitive Slave Act, the formation of the KKK. She's using this, this concurrence to give America a history lesson, and in many ways saying to the native of Georgia, you clearly didn't take any Black history classes.
Right. No, look, I mean, one, everyone should read what Justice Jackson wrote, right? Like the history of this country, what we experience as the United States of America is deeply connected to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. In fact, it changes what the country is, right? And we don't learn about it correctly, and we don't talk about it correctly. But the 14th Amendment is like the foundational principle around why we can live where we want to live, why there was voting rights, why you can marry who you want to marry, why you get one phone call if you go to jail. I really appreciate both of the professors and the lawyers, the things that you are given, because what Justice Jackson is trying to do is give us a civic lesson on what is at stake right now, literally at a 5-4 vote in the Supreme Court. And so, you know, this moment requires us to actually lean into like our legacy and our history. And the thing about this whole case, this whole scenario, we've been experiencing this as if we're talking about immigrants, as if we're talking, I mean, which, by the way, the nation is made of immigrants. And second, the foundational principle that makes me, you, and everybody on the screen, and most of the folks who are listening to you, everybody who's listening to you actually, citizens, is the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. And folks won that right? This is the thing that I really came here to say, really, Roland, is that people actually did things to win the 14th Amendment. It did not come out of heaven. It didn't descend from something else. There were a bunch of Black people who fought and died in the Civil War. And then there were another group of Black people who were organized into committees across the country, actually informing what went into the 14th Amendment. And that our folks, both Black and white folks, joined together and fought for a better union, a better democracy, a better nation for us all. In this current moment, this current clapback, this current white backlash clapback moment that we're experiencing, which is being headed by our president and pushed by a bunch of MAGA folks, we need to understand what our mission is right now. What's the mission for us? That we need to be in these conversations with our neighbors, that we need to be in conversation with each other about what's really happening in the Supreme Court and these decisions and the way that they can impact our lives.
I love this here, Ashley. I love this here, Ashley. She writes, freed Blacks did not advocate for a unique set of rules that catered only to their situation, nor did they seek to advance their own position relative to or at the expense and exclusion of other marginalized groups. Instead, those whose gatherings helped galvanize the push for full equality understood that a diverse origin does not disprove a common nature, nor does it disprove a united destiny. The firmest foundation for freedom would require an anti-caste reset, both for his sake and for all ours, and would benefit all. That not only was a shot at Justice Clarence Thomas, it also is a shot at those ADOS and FBA people who, frankly, aligned with Trump on the 14th Amendment by saying it only applied to African Americans.
Exactly. And there's another part of her concurrence where she says that the alternative account that the dissent attempts to put forward pitches Black Americans against immigrants when, and to quote her, the advocates who promoted the 14th Amendment did no such thing, and free Blacks fought for the shared humanity of all people. And that history is so important. The history that you just mentioned of organizing, freed Blacks in the North, organizing to ensure what the 14th Amendment could be, to envision what it could be, expansive rights for all. And so I think her decision really highlights that. And it's a lesson for all of us, all communities of color, to be galvanizing, to be organizing, to create what the 14th Amendment envisioned and what these people who fought for the 14th Amendment, fought in the Civil War, right, envisioned for this multiracial democracy. Right now, we're really fighting for this. And, a lot of decisions came out these past 2 weeks that were devastating to our civil rights. But this decision is a glimmer of hope. Yes, it was, a 5-1-3, but you should know that it's also 6-3 and 6 holding that the president's executive order was indeed unlawful. And so we have to hold on to the victories that we have to continue to galvanize, organize, and continue to fight for our liberties.
A couple of more questions. Ellie Mistel, my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. I mean, I've been yelling and screaming this very thing since 2009 with the inauguration of Obama. And I kept saying, folks, listen, prepare yourself. We are seeing the beginning stages of white minority resistance, and we better prepare for this war for the next 50 to 100 years. Well, that was 17 years ago. And now people are now realizing what I'm talking about. NPR accidentally published a story saying Alito was going to retire. We all are expecting this. In fact, someone posted that the Internet's Wayback Machine showed that that article was supposed to be posted on Friday. That means that Trump is going to get, more than likely, get a crack at his 4th Supreme Court justice. If Clarence Thomas retires, it'll be his 5th. A lot of people sat their asses at home in 2016, choosing not to vote for Hillary Clinton. Now they see what the result of that is. And so Ashley just said we have to hold on to these glimmer of hope. This is also what people need to understand, why November matters, Ellie. Why, if Democrats take control of the Senate, if they take control of the House, then they control that apparatus and they are able to stop a lot of things that Trump is doing. People watching and listening who are like, man, I don't care about this stuff, don't really understand that these rulings, these decisions can last more than a century or longer.
And understanding that is why Republicans win. It's why Republicans generally kick our ass, because Republicans have trained their voters to be single issue voters. And one of the things that I've argued about with this Birthright case is that it is poised to become the next abortion case, right? Republicans want abortion. They're the dog that caught the car. And so they're looking for this new lost cause, this new thing to motivate their voters, to turn their voters into single issue voters on the Supreme Court. And birthright citizenship, being as close as it is, really might be that thing where they can now go out to their voters and say, look, you have to vote for Republicans because you have to control the Supreme Court, because controlling the Supreme Court is the only way we get rid of birthright citizenship. Democrats never have been able to get our voters to turn themselves into single issue voters on the Supreme Court, single issue voters when it comes to control of the third, and I would argue most important branch of government, because the Supreme Court, the judicial branch of government, is the branch of government that can veto the other two branches.
Yep.
No matter what legislation the Congress passes, no matter what executive orders the president signs, the Supreme Court can veto those. And so if you don't care about the Supreme Court, you don't care about who's running the government. And Democrats have never been able to turn Democratic voters into single issue voters on this particular issue. And we need them, because it's the single issue voter that can hold their nose and vote for a candidate that they don't otherwise like, right? Because they understand that something more important is in play. Republicans always understand this because of abortion, because of LGBTQ plus rights, and now because of birthright. Democrats need to get that memo and need to start turning voters into single issue voters.
DeMario, you want to comment?
Yeah, I want to jump in because I think this is the type of issue and this is the type of time to clarify for the base what we're really up against and who these folks actually are. And like the way that when we think about the 14th Amendment particularly is critical, because the 14th Amendment was an amendment that was created from Black people fighting for it. Even in Justice Jackson's dissent, she's talking about, with her opinion, she's talking about how 600 local chapters of people had organized across the country to make sure that this thing was what it needs to be. And so when we think about, you think about the Second Amendment group, right? Folks who fight for the Second Amendment, they pinch their nose and vote for all kinds of stuff for the Second Amendment. I think what we've been creating in a popular democracy is defend the 14th Amendment, right? Like, how do we defend the 14th Amendment as a foundational principle that we can organize a lot of other things around, right? So if you go to our website, actually we have a website called defendthe14th.org. You should go there, you should sign the pledge, and then we can continue to organize. We have to organize. There's no way out of this. When we think about what the right really did, they organized from the ground for 40 years. They picked issues that were salient with their base. Part of the problem we face with the Democratic Party is that the base of the Democratic Party are the people who are being attacked right now, right? It's Black women, Black men, brown folks, the people that are being attacked right now. And the party should be coming out very strong defending the 14th Amendment. We should be talking about this. We should talk about the other violations of ICE. How can you have an amendment that says all persons get due process of equal protection under the law, not give them due process of equal protection and call them illegals? That doesn't make sense, right? And we actually have to figure out how are we connecting these things, right? When it says you can't have a caste system, that also means that you can't have an economic caste system. You know what I'm saying? There's other things in the 14th Amendment that we don't talk about either. It's not just birthright citizenship. There's clauses around how many people you're allowed to have in Congress based on the number of people you're allowed to vote in your state. That's in the second clause. The third clause is talking about people who were part of an insurrection because it was created after the Confederate Army had literally tried to overthrow the country. So there's a clause inside of the 14th Amendment that says if you aided and abetted an insurrection, you can't hold an executive office. Right. And right now we're dealing with a president that clearly has pardoned a lot of people who were part of an insurrection attempt. I mean, if you look at J6, so there's a lot of things inside the 14th Amendment that we need to understand. Mm-hmm. We also need to understand that you couldn't get back into the Union after the Civil War unless your state passed a 14th Amendment clause. So right now we really need to be about defending the 14th Amendment foundationally as a way to talk about what we need to do together. And actually, there's other pieces too when we think about corporate manipulation and perversion of the 14th Amendment, which is giving them more rights. If we want to talk about, I know later in the show, you're going to talk about how they've given more rights for wealthy people and corporations to influence our democracy. So this is a crux. This is a key piece of our Constitution that connects a lot of the things that we care about. And right now, we got to stand up for it. Also, July 9th coming up, right? Everybody celebrates July 4th as the 250th. We're doing this whole thing around the 250th. But July 9th is the ratification of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. It's our actual 4th of July. If you're a Black person, a woman, a non-landowning white man, if you're anybody outside of that, then actually July 9th is your 4th of July. We should be celebrating that. And our organization is actually going to be in front of the Supreme Court on July 9th. We're going to do a large 1,000-person gathering and protest and really a march and celebration on July 9th. And we're going to lean into what we need to do to actually create a country that we can live in and be sustained, a democracy that actually works for the next 250 years. That's the work we need to get about right now. We need a vision what is the next 250 years going to look like? And what does it mean to be an American? And who's going to get to decide who is an American? And what is the kind of country that we want to live in? I believe we're the patriots. We're the actual patriots, especially Black folks in the country. We're the people who care about the words in the Constitution. There's a bunch of people like us. You all should join us. It is our time to stand up and do something together right now. And we're seeing that from the attacks at the other side of the us.
And it just
the conscience of the country.
Oh, listen. Dr. King often said, "America, be true to what you put on paper." And so, in fact, that was a photo of C.T. Vivian, Ambassador Andrew Young. It was Joseph Lowry, John Lewis, and I think it was one more. And Holder said to me, those were the second founding fathers. He was just talking about in terms of that particular photo. Ashley, I want you to close us out to the point that DeMario just said. Here we go to my iPad. See, when we talk about the 14th Amendment, Ashley, we often only talk about birthright citizenship. And the reality is when the 14th Amendment, due process, even if you look you look at that particular issue, all of that, first of all, it goes through the issue of citizenship. It deals with against, representatives, United States senators who can serve. And remember, this same Supreme Court completely abdicated their responsibility by annihilating the insurrection portion of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, when Colorado said Donald Trump could not be president. And then they offered this very strange legal ruling as to know what Congress has to do first. But the 14th Amendment dealt with, it says right there, person, if they shall engage in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid to comfort the enemies thereof, boom, right there. And then, of course, it deals with the public debt as well. So the right, they've attacked the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause. That 14th Amendment, the basis of this has expanded. And the reason they also want to bring the 14th Amendment down, because they also want to get rid of same-sex marriage and all of the other laws that have been passed and reaffirmed as a result of due process and the Equal Protection Clause.
Yeah, and, we see the 14th Amendment being flipped on its head. Just last week, this very same court struck down the TPS for Haitian people here on TPS status using the 14th Amendment, saying that they could not find a violation under the 14th Amendment. They did not see discrimination, racial discrimination, despite all those statements made by the president, made by the former, DHS secretary. They said that doesn't show racism, that doesn't show discrimination. That is why it is so important to know our history, right? To be able to fight back on these narratives, these false narratives. And when you know your history, you're able to show that you're able to prove your case, you're able to prevail. And I think that this case was successful in part because history was on our side, the law was on our side, the facts were on our side, but should have never even come before the court, right? One thing to note was that this very issue of what the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause means had already been litigated over 100 years ago by the Supreme Court and had already ruled that the 14th Amendment says what it says. If you're born on U.S. soil, you are indeed a citizen. But yet, it made its way up to the Supreme Court again, and was a close call. But I think that we should still celebrate this victory. As you noted, we're about to head into July 4th weekend, July 9th, to celebrate, the anniversary of the 14th Amendment. And so I think that this decision has to serve as, a modicum of hope amongst a lot of disappointing decisions this term, and that we have to continue to organize, galvanize, and just hope for a better future and for a multiracial democracy. I'm
going to give Ellie the last word in responding to this, Ellie. You said something earlier, and then Ashley just said something. And as she was talking, I thought about what you said. This is what it also speaks to when she said that it was adjudicated and decided 100 years ago. This is what the right understands. And you already said it, that the Supreme Court is supreme. And the reality is there is no such thing as precedent. Every time there is a hearing for the Supreme Court, they bring up stare decisis. And that was always brought up when it came to Roe v. Wade. And to your point, Democrats leaned on that. Democrats said, stare decisis, Roe v. Wade is decided. No, what this extreme court has made perfectly clear, we don't give a shit what any previous court decided. We have the authority to issue a new precedent. And actually, what they've done is they used Plessy v. Ferguson, Dred Scott decision, and Brown v. Board of Education as part of their argument. They say, wait a minute, Dred Scott was precedent, Plessy v. Ferguson was precedent, but then those were overruled. So they don't care about precedent. So to your point, absolutely, they're going to play the long game because for them is how can they establish, let's be real clear, a theocratic republic. They want to establish a white Christian fundamentalist nation, a white nationalist nation, and they know if you capture the courts, the extreme court, the appeals court, the federal judiciary, and then, of course, on the state level, state Supreme Courts, you can have your run of this country.
The white and the right never take a loss as final, right? They never take defeat as the final answer, right? They always act like it's a temporary setback, and then they get about clawing and scratching and scraping to find some other way to get what they want, which is white supremacy, which is them lording over their power over everybody else. I like to remind people, think about how many times you have heard, you have read a story about they found a Klan robe in somebody's closet, in somebody's attic, and so, right? Like, it comes out of nowhere, right? And whenever I hear one of those stories, and there are a lot of those stories, I always want people to remember what that means is they ain't never throw the Klan robe away. They ain't never throw it away. They might put it in the closet, they might put it in the garage for a little bit, but it's always still there. And they're always waiting for the day where they can bring it out again. And that is how the whites and the right always react whenever they take a temporary setback at the Supreme Court. They never stop fighting. In response to that, what I also say is that Black people, we're undefeated because we ain't never stopped fighting neither. We always fight too. But the Democratic Party writ large, liberals writ large, sometimes we get so far out ahead, no offense, Roland, but we start acting like the San Antonio Spurs, right? We start acting like we done won the thing when the game ain't over, when the buzzer ain't sound, right? And so that's what we have to take with Birthright. Yes, today was a victory, a close victory, but that was game one. And this is now a 7-game series to defend Birthright citizenship, and we won the first round.
All right, then. Ellie Bistel, Ashley Burrell, DeMario Cooper, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
As we were, as they were talking, I could not help but think about the Watergate hearings and Congresswoman Barbara Jordan when she delivered her amazing speech that has often been recited. Listen to this.
A lady from Texas, Ms. Jordan, for the purpose of general debate, not to exceed a period of 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, I join my colleague, Mr. Rangel, in thanking you for giving the junior members of this committee the glorious opportunity of sharing the pain of this inquiry. Mr. Chairman, you are a strong man, and it has not been easy, but we have tried as best we can to give you as much assistance as possible. Earlier today, we heard the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people. It's a very eloquent beginning. But when that document was completed on the 17th of September in 1787, I was not included in that we the people. I felt somehow for many years that George Washington and Alexander Hamilton just left me out by mistake. But through the process of amendment, interpretation, and court decision, I have finally been included in we the people. Today I am an inquisitor, and hyperbole would not be fictional and would not overstate the solemnness that I feel right now. My faith in the Constitution is whole, it is complete, it is total. And I am not going to sit here and be an idle spectator to the diminution, the subversion, the destruction of the Constitution.
Scott, she said, my faith in the Constitution is whole and complete. But what I think we have to understand, again, as I just said and Ellie reiterated, that what this extreme court is showing to anyone, that they can rewrite the Constitution even when it is a constitutional amendment that was passed by Congress and then accepted by 3/4 of the states and then ratified. They know we have the power and we will use it the way we see fit.
Yeah, you know, the big winner in all of this has been the Supreme Court, not Donald Trump or the Congress or the feckless Republican leaders, but the Supreme Court has taken on any number of decisions to expand executive rights, to address immigration, to give the Trump administration wins on immigration. Yeah, I've done a couple shows today talking about these decisions, and my Republican counterparts always say, well, on the birthright citizenship, it shows that the Supreme Court is not in the pocket of the Trump administration or Donald Trump. I said quite contrary. It shows that the Supreme Court, even as conservative as they are, can only go so far. But make no doubt about it, they are an activist body, and they are a conservative body. They are on the right, the far right, but even the Constitution, they have to follow to not go too much further right. And so there's no, I heard your prior guest say that this is some type of hope in regard to the birthright citizenship. I tend to agree with Ellie. It's not a hope at all, quite frankly. It's just the beginning, not the end. And so faithful to the Constitution, as Barbara Jordan said, faithful to the Constitution, a document that did not include her or me or you or anybody else on the panel when it was first drafted. In fact, 75% of the signers of that document owned slaves at the time. And so the maturation of Black America and our communities, and yet how much we still love this country and how much we love the Constitution and how much we love freedom, justice, and equality, because we've had to fight to be a part of this America. And so I think you're right about Barbara Jordan, but more importantly, we have not only a consciousness, but our white friends on the other side of the aisle don't seem to have the same loyalty, other than their privilege that they believe that they've earned, but they just felt like they inherited. We somehow have to continue to press them to be that independent voice and to be faithful to the same document. How ironic that is, Roland, that we are the faith holders of a Constitution that did not include us.
But,
just let that sink in.
But here's the piece here that we have to recognize here, Michael Brown. And that is, it's not just white folks on the other aisle. It's also white folks who are Democrats. This is Joe Biden talking to 60 Minutes with regards to expanding the Supreme Court.
Realistically, Democrats have lost the competition to control the U.S. Supreme Court.
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Mr. Biden is under pressure from his own party to consider increasing the number of justices if elected. It's called court packing, and while he's said he's no fan of the idea, he's never completely ruled it out.
Judge Amy Coney Barrett is on track to become the 9th U.S. Supreme Court justice. That would give the conservatives a 6-3 majority. If elected, would you move to add more justices to the Supreme Court?
If elected, what I will do is I'll put together a national commission bipartisan commission of scholars, constitutional scholars, Democrats, Republicans, liberal, conservative, and I will ask them to, over 180 days, come back to me with recommendations as to how to reform the court system, because it's getting out of whack. The way in which it's being handled. And it's not about court packing. There's a number of other things that our constitutional scholars have debated, and I'd look to see what recommendations that commission might make.
This is a live ball.
Oh, it is a live ball. No, it is a live ball. We're going to have to do that. And you're going to find there's a lot of conservative constitutional scholars who are saying it as well. The last thing we need to do is turn the Supreme Court into just a political football. Whoever has the most votes gets whatever they want. Presidents come and go. Supreme Court justices stay for generations.
Michael, that's the fucking problem. Oh, I'm going to put together a blue ribbon panel, which is what he did. And guess what? It was bullshit. The reality is this here. This is the fundamental flaw with Democrats in power. They are more institutionalist than Republicans are. Democrats are about how do we maintain the institution? How do we respect the institution? How do we do all of that? Republicans are like, yo, blow this shit up so we can get what we want. That's their position. And so Joe Biden was wrong. Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton were both wrong when they said, oh, when Donald Trump goes away, then the old Republican Party is coming back. Not realizing that that is today's Republican Party. That answer before the election and then how he behaved when he got in is a part of the problem. Obama, same way. I can go back and forth. Democrats kept thinking, oh, no, those things are settled. They're going to respect a previous Supreme Court decision, not when you have a hardcore activist court. And when this court, when they got rid of Sandra Day O'Connor, when she retired, when Anthony Kennedy retired, and they added Alito to Thomas with Roberts, and Roberts was like a Trojan horse chilling and waiting, the same Roberts who learned under that racist William Rehnquist, and then all of a sudden they got Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and then Coney Barrett. When they got that 6th vote, they were like, yo, it's all good. We can lose one of y'all, we still gonna win.
Yeah, I wish Roland, how are you? I wish my constitutional law professor had just answered yes. I'm in favor of court packing. If the
But it's no. Stop right there. No. We gotta stop. We gotta stop using their language. It's not court packing. It's not court packing. The Supreme Court and the federal judiciary has been expanded before. In fact, okay, I'm not a lawyer. I can count. Michael, you and Scott are lawyers. How many circuit courts do we have? How many circuits do we have? What, 13?
How many, Scott?
11.
Okay, 11. Wasn't that expanded? Didn't they expand the number of circuit courts because of the amount of cases? We didn't always have 9 Supreme Court justices. And so we've changed. So my whole point is, if we use the court packing language, Michael, then we're using the language. We just saw in Utah where Republicans lost at the Utah Supreme Court when it came to a congressional, the gerrymandering case. You know what they did? They expanded the Utah Supreme Court. The governor signed it into law. I didn't hear any Republicans complain about that. Michael, go ahead.
Agreed. I stand corrected on, you're right, and I stand corrected on the court packing language, but I still wish my constitutional law professor had answered it a different way. And getting back to the subject, if I can, quick editorial comment, Roland. Yesterday, our good friend Scott Bolden and I participated in the DC Chamber of Commerce golf outing. And I have to say, I'm proud to say that our Kappa friend, his group, won the outing yesterday. Proud and congratulations.
Pencils have his group. Pencils have erasers.
When you mentioned some about the party and your prior panel talked about why Democrats don't take the courts as seriously as Republicans do. We had, not every general election, but we have gotten into this pattern of Democrats like to fall in love with a candidate rather than winning. That seems to be more important. And so when you don't get exactly what you want, you either stay at home or you say, well, I'm not going to vote for this particular person for whatever reason. And we have yet to take the court issue as seriously as Republicans have. And until we start to get a little closer, or frankly, succeed what their thinking is about the court, we're going to always be kind of in this defensive posture of these kinds of cases. And so your prior panel was exactly right to tackle that particular issue and to talk about it. We can probably count on maybe less than one hand how many actual Democratic nominees for president were more concerned about winning rather than being the perfect candidate. And we have to somehow also get back to that. But again, congratulations.
When Coney, the last time a Democratic president appointed the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was a year before my parents were born in 1947. That was the last time a Democrat appointed the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The reality is this. For my entire life, all 57 years, 58 in November, Republicans have run the Supreme Court. They've run the Supreme Court. And whoever runs next in 2028 should say, yes, I want to expand the Supreme Court. They should. And what they should say, Win Cooney, is this is not new. The next person should say, we should have the same number of Supreme Court justices as we have circuit courts. Make the case. Make the case in terms of workload, because let's also be clear. This Supreme Court does not hear a lot of cases. They don't really work a lot. I'm just saying. It's amazing how light their caseload is. And so you can make the argument, but Democrats and progressives had better get real damn serious about the federal bench, because this is where the most power lies. That's why all them Simple Simon punk-ass Negroes who were talking shit under Biden-Harris, who were like, you keep bringing up how many federal judges Biden appointed. I'm like, you damn right, you dumbass. Federal judges wield enormous power, and we will be stupid to act like the person sitting in the Oval Office is not no big deal based upon who they appoint to the federal bench.
I totally agree with that, Roland. I think when we really think about some of the challenges with the Supreme Court, it's the one way that we've really paid homage to, our English colonialist roots, in that there is no term limits on the Supreme Court, right? So what we see is exactly what you elucidated. We see people that are appointed, that are dying out in office, right? We see that there's no way that the liberals have been able to get even a foothold in the Supreme Court. And so the only way to restore any type of ideological balance is to propose adding more justices to the Supreme Court. Now, I battled with this in my mind as you were talking, Roland, because I was like, man, do we really want to be like them? Do we really want to change the rules of the game to win? But I've come to the conclusion it's the only way to win. It's the only way to reverse stolen appointments. It's the only way to safeguard democratic rights. And if we look back far enough, it's actually an historical precedent. Like you said, Roland, when you were talking about the circuit courts, if you look back far enough, between 1789 and 1869, the size of the Supreme Court fluctuated and it was changed 6 times. So even though that hasn't necessarily been done in modern contemporary day, it has been done historically, and thereby we know there's precedent set that it could be happening again.
Look, it's real. It's real, Scott, and folks better wake up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, the problem with the Democratic Party, they like memos to be right about, and they're institutionalists, right? As opposed to understanding politics is about getting one more vote than the next guy, win at all cost. And when you got some Republican, conservative, political gangsters on one side, and then you got these institutionalists on the other, the street fighters who got the guns versus the knives, the guys with the guns are going to always be there. And we got to change our game plan. We don't have to be right. We just got to win. That doesn't make us in some way morally reprehensible, but you got to be morally reprehensible if you're going against an enemy, a political enemy that's morally reprehensible, just to balance it out. And so that's why the Democratic Socialists, and I hate getting into labels, but that's why they're winning in urban America. They only got 3 issues, and people who can't afford it, they argue affordability. They hate the Democratic institutionalists because they believe that they've let Trump get away with murder, including winning 2 elections against 2 women. And then also, we don't fight hard enough. They want to fight harder. They want to take out the guns to go match to match in a street fight because they know they're in a street fight, if you will. Now, if they win, they're going to move to the center because the politics of governing is different than the politics of campaigning. It's a popularity contest, right? But that's why they're winning. And Democrats, I just wrote a piece on this. Democrats, institutionalists, need to learn from the Democratic Socialists in these elections in urban America in order to be armed instead of fighting within the party. Join forces with them to the extent you can, their permanent interests, and go forward. But until the Democratic Party understands that people of color and gay Democrats are the core of the party, and that they can't win, and white America has abandoned the Democratic Party and has since 68 or 69 under Lyndon Johnson, you and I have talked about this, then they're going to continue to struggle to win elections at the national level or the White House because they cannot, their white privilege will not allow them to embrace the fact that people of color are the base of their party. And the only time they've won recently with Barack Obama and Clinton was when they put money behind and energy behind getting the black and brown vote out. It's so simple, and yet our white leaders in the Democratic Party struggle because of their privilege to really embrace that. They can't wait to attract the poor white male or female voter, the working class voter, the rural voter, and it's just not going to happen. You know, if you do stuff over and over again and you get expecting a different result, you know, that's silliness, or it makes no sense whatsoever. And we're still stuck in stupid with the Democratic Party.
Well, folks better wake up and realize how vitally important the Supreme Court and the federal courts are, because I'm telling you, what you're seeing is these people are trying to lock in power, and when they can get a judicial ruling, it is harder to overturn a Supreme Court ruling than it is a law in Congress. Folk had better understand that. Let me go to a break. I'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, Give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, the Supreme Court lifted the federal cap on how much political parties can spend in coordination with their candidates. In a 6-3 decision, the court's conservative majority ruled that concerns over wealthy donor influence and campaign contribution limits were insufficient to justify the restrictions, finding that the caps violate the First Amendment. Before the ruling, party committees were limited to about $63,600 for most House races and from $127,200 to nearly $4 million for Senate races, depending upon the state. With those limits now removed, critics believe the decision opens the door for greater influence from outside groups such as wealthy donors and super PACs, thereby weakening anti-corruption safeguards. According to the Federal Election Commission's statistical summaries, Republicans already have a significant financial advantage heading into this year's midterms. Democrats typically did better because of their small donors, but Republicans, because of the billionaires, typically do better when it comes to super PAC. Michael, you are formerly on the Finance Committee, the Democratic National Committee. Your assessment of this decision?
Well, I don't know if it's too much of a surprise relative to what happened in the court a few years ago. This is kind of what this court believes that it's the First Amendment right, that if people want to give as much money as they can, they clearly didn't weigh the part about fairness and who the folks that would benefit the most, basically being the rich or ultra rich or corporations. So it's not too much of a surprise. And so now Democrats have to do what they can on the phones and doing the best they can with the left-leaning billionaires and millionaires and big companies. But that still doesn't mean you turn your back on the smaller donors, as in labor unions and the like, and folks that want to give $5 or $10. So it's not too much of a surprise, but clearly we got to continue to get to work and work very hard on it.
When Coney, obviously, Republicans are elated because they know now their big-time billionaires can now just dump more money into these campaigns.
Yeah, and Roland, to the previous topic we were just talking about, we are getting our asses absolutely handed to us by the Supreme Court, right? So now what we see is that this free speech versus corruption notion is going to be a growing issue because these limits are not going to be deemed necessary to prevent corruption or the appearance of it. But then you also have these lasting concerns over soft money, right? This is going to create a massive loophole that's going to allow these wealthy donors to bypass strict individual contribution limits because they can funnel this unlimited amount of money to party committees. And so really these party committees are just going to act as super PACs, right? And so it is extremely concerning because, as we know, there's a lot more billionaires on the right than there are on the left. And so I'm concerned about what this means for the future of the Democratic Party as we know it. But, I think this is exactly poignant in terms of what we were talking about before. Without a real serious revamp of the Supreme Court, we're going to see decisions like this continue to pass and continue to push the United States towards fascism. It's really no surprise.
Scott?
Don't need more dark money after this decision. I mean, the floodgates of corruption have opened up now. If the corruption and dirty money, clean money into campaigns, it's just the handcuffs are off, the gloves are off, and let the money pour in. The Republicans have multiple millions of dollars, much more than the Democratic Party, and it is and while you have limits on what you can give to a party, now you can communicate and coordinate with your Democratic Party or the Republican Party. You don't really need as much dark money, although it'll still be there with these independent expenditure packs. But between the IEPs, right, and now the RNC and the DNC, my goodness, the amount of money that's going to flow into a campaign now is literally unlimited. With that comes corruption, but more importantly, it corrupts the process and who is going to lead you and who your candidates are going to be. And then after they get elected, because money will get you elected, after they get elected, who do they serve? Do they serve the people?
No.
Do they serve their personal interests?
Yep.
Or do they serve the interests of those moneyed interests that got behind their campaign and responsible for them being elected?
Well, just like all those corporate interests who keep funneling money and paying off Clarence Thomas's bills, giving him free vacations, we know who he serves. He is Clarence Thomas has been bought and purchased.
So real quick now, are the Democrats going to get in the dirty money game, or are they going to sit on the sidelines and say, we don't want to be a part of that regardless of what the decision is? This is where the political gangsterism comes in with the money. You got to get out. You have got to get out. What's good for the Republicans will be good for the Democrats. Black people get out there and vote. And then when we get in control, right, let's not be limited by our moral compass, like political moral compass, right?
Right.
We got to take advantage of it. That's the new game now. You got to get in it.
That's it. Let me go to a break. I'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281. This episode is sponsored by Kalshi, the largest prediction market in the United States. Here's what makes Kalshi different. You are not playing against a house. Kalshi is peer-to-peer trading. You buy a yes or no contract on whether something will happen, and you're trading directly against other users. Think of it like buying or selling a stock. The line isn't set by some algorithm working against you. It moves based on where the money goes. Public opinion actually sets the price. So you look at the World Cup right now. England is trading at 88%, meaning a $100 trade pays out to $111.50 with a correct prediction. And as that probability shifts, you can buy in or out of your position at any time to lock in a profit or cut a loss. Kalshi is a CFTC-approved, federally regulated platform, which is why it's available all across the country, including California and Texas. Download the Kalshi app and use code SOCCER10 to get $10 when you trade $10. You can also sign up at Kalshi, KALSHI.com/R/SOCCER10, the number 10, which auto applies the code at checkout. Kalshi, trade what's next.
Hey, what's up? Geek Tony in the place to be. Got Kicked Out Your Mama's University, creator and executive producer of Fat Tuesdays, a hip hop comedy. But right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, we told y'all elections have consequences, and the reality is Harris losing, Trump winning, meaning you're getting screwed when it comes to student loans. Man, guess what? Starting tomorrow, July 1st, significant changes to the federal student loan system will be implemented under Trump's pathetic, big, beautiful bill. More than 7 million borrowers currently enrolled in the Biden-era SAVE repayment plan will have 90 days to select a new repayment option as the program is being phased out. Those who default on their loans may face wage garnishment, loss of tax refunds, and severe damage to their credit scores. These changes are expected to affect black borrowers disproportionately. According to the Center for American Progress, nearly half of black student loan borrowers have defaulted on their loans. We're going to be talking about that with a guest shortly. But this thing right here, it goes to show you when we're talking about, again, elections matter. We can go over a host of issues. And this is what I've been trying to tell people all across the country. And I've been saying this till I'm blue in the face. And you know, people sit here and go, oh, my goodness, why do you make a big deal out of this? Why do you keep talking about this here? Because we're going to continue to talk about it because we have to learn to connect the dots. And there are lots of people who are watching right now. There are a lot of people who we know, especially a lot of young folks and others, who believe that, you know what? I think, I can check out. It really has no impact on my life. So therefore, I don't really have to pay attention to these things because I think it's just a whole bunch of drama. And so I see these people. I see them commenting on my social media. Oh, here y'all go again. Y'all trying to scare us or trying to scare us into voting. No, what we're trying to lay out to you are the consequences of when somebody else gets in. Tomorrow, I'm going to be in Fort Lauderdale. And we'll be live streaming this event. It's called We the People. We're going to be at New Mount Olive Baptist Church, 400 Northwest 9th Avenue in Fort Lauderdale. Norm Nixon, former LA Laker great, is going to be moderating the panel. Tracy Jones is on the panel. I'll be there with Dr. Rosalind Osgood. Performing is Kia Rashid. Why are we having this We the People Coalition event? It's real simple. We have to begin to teach people how the dots are connected. There is no facet, there's no part of your life that politics does not touch. There's none. The food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, what's on your feet. I don't care what it is. Politics plays a role in it. The car you drive, if you don't drive, if you utilize public transportation is politics. Oh, you might say, well, I can do Uber, Lyft. Politics plays a role in that. Cabs, role in that as well. We could talk about regulation. We could talk about safety. Oh, the apartment that you're living in, the home you're living in. There are building codes. There are inspectors. That's government. There's nothing that exists in your life that government does not have a role in. So why in the hell would we check out of a process that impacts every part of our lives? And so this is really where we are. And here we are going into July. So we have July, August, September, October. That's 4 months. We literally have 4 months to make a decision as to how we are going to organize and mobilize people when it comes to the upcoming election. And when we look at these races across the country, these U.S. Senate races, these House races, gubernatorial races, state rep, state Senate, judicial races, DA races, I don't care what it is, it's all on the ballot, depending upon where you are. And so what I need black folks to do is to maximize this and overwhelm the polls. And when Cooney, what we have to be doing is really, right now, be having, and I'm gonna keep yelling this, what I call citizenship education classes. Every single week, there should be somewhere in some community, some conversation taking place where we are training people on this, because if we don't, I don't want to hear people after the fact. I don't want to, I'm sick of people, when Cooney, commenting, complaining after the fact. You know what? We just had, okay, BET brands itself the biggest night of our culture, the BET Awards. Nothing on voting. Nothing on the election. Not only that, they didn't even have the decency to pay tribute to Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.
It's honestly a travesty, Roland. And you said that we have 4 months. If we're starting now, we're already behind the 8 ball. And that's the biggest concern. When we think about voting as a whole, there's just simply not enough attention being paid to what's happening right now and the dismembering of the democratic fabric of this country. That's number one. This program is probably one of the few programs that is focusing on that issue day in and day out. Number two, if we take a step back and we really think about these federal student loan changes, I just wanted to take one example, because one of the things that scared me the most when I was reading through it is that they said even professional programs are going to be capped at $200,000 total. When you think about, let's take medical school, for example, and we know that right now is only 8% of African Americans that are even going to medical school, right? And we can apply that to law school as well. Very small numbers. But let's take that and say, how much is it going to cost them to get to through a medical school tuition? For a public medical school, it's $300,000. For a private medical school, it's $400,000. What are people going to do with this $200,000 cap? They're not going to be able to make it through these professional programs, these professional degree programs. These degree programs that are one of the ways that Black people are able to move themselves through the wealth gap that so prominently exists in this country. And so when you say that voting affects every single thing, Roland, you're absolutely right. And people are seeing the implications of this right now. They're going to see it through their higher monthly payments when people can already not even afford the price of gas at the gas station. They're going to have longer repayment periods. Public service workers are going to be disproportionately affected. There's so many ways. Let's not even talk about how it's going to disproportionately affect HBCUs and the students that won't be able to attend because they can't, receive these federal loans. So, honestly, if people aren't paying attention, if people aren't waking up, and shame on BET for not paying more attention to it, when you have capped the largest African-American audience in this country on one night, and you're not using it to draw attention to the upcoming elections, shame on you. That's something that politicking we do every single week. We have conversations with these elected officials, but we need to see this being done on bigger platforms daily. This has to become a life or death issue, because that's exactly what it is.
Well, this is unfortunately what happens, Scott. And listen, BET is real clear. It's about entertainment. That's all it's about. It is not about consciousness. And so I'm not shocked at all you heard nothing political, nothing social on that show. And that also is what I have been saying is a problem. We got too many Black folks who are walking around and we are laughing and gossiping ourselves to death. We are so locked in on entertainment stuff, on gossip, on housewives shows, on all this sort of stuff. And when stuff goes down, oh man, well, I ain't know, because you didn't know because you were paying attention to the wrong thing.
My mother used to say, black people love shaking their behinds and shucking and jiving. And we shaking our behinds and singing. We know every word to every rap song that Cardi B ever put out. These young people, the least, the lost, and the left out, and talking instead of the seriousness of our politics in the state of where we are in this country. Here's a question for you, Roland. People vote for who they know and people vote for who they like, right? But they got to vote because they care. And I don't think black people, our black communities, let's be real honest. Let's be real honest. They just don't care. Sure, you and I can intellectualize our vote, and we're super voters. Everybody on this panel, we vote in every election, local, state, federal, if you will, right? But what about the black communities where you have the least, the lost, and the left out, as Marion Barry used to say, right? How do you get them to care about voting in every election? Because they are the most dislodged, if you will, from the system, because they don't believe in the system and they don't believe it can make a difference in their life. You can get those voters, those disaffected voters, to care about voting, right? Then you'll be cooking with grease. But today, no matter how many programs we have, no matter how many leaders we have, the voting at the local level, state level, and federal level of our black communities, whether you register them or not, right? They have every excuse. They tell themselves not to vote. If you can get them to care about it, right? If they are disaffected vis-a-vis now, they can be affected by this, or they understand it. You get them to care to vote, you can win every election. But they just don't care. Tell me where I'm wrong about that.
Michael?
Scott, I don't know if you are wrong. I think that's the challenge, and we hear that so much. Also, we hear, to add to your list that you just mentioned, is, well, it's not going to matter. My vote doesn't matter. Even if I do vote, everything's going to be the same. Politicians don't care about us except when it's time for a campaign, and then they come to our communities. I think the onus is on not just the voter, but the onus is also on the elected leaders and or folks that want to be elected leaders to demonstrate that there are going to be different and engage more. Because back to the, for example, as many people have had a problem with Biden's tenure as president, he did put up to relieve folks of student loan debt. And then folks, but obviously the election changed hands next, but you better believe Vice President Harris would have continued that program. But because folks were sitting at home and my vote's not going to matter and I don't care, clearly the election went a different way.
Again, where we are is real simple. That is getting people to understand that elections have consequences. And when we talk about the student loan repayment, it's going to be a lot of people who have not been paying attention. It's a lot of people who are going to be going, oh my God, what happened? And then when they start having those tax refunds snatched and wages garnished, then they're really going to be asking the question. That's because they're not paying attention. Dr. Brittany Williams joins us now. She's an education policy expert and researcher. And Brittany, listen, we do best as we can talk about public policy. I make it clear, I don't waste my time on no BS entertainment. I don't give a damn who got married. I don't give a damn who got divorced. I don't care who anybody is dating. None of that stuff means anything to me. But when this student loan issue drops tomorrow, it's going to be a whole bunch of people who are going to be in for a rude awakening because they have not been paying attention.
Yes, that's correct.
Walk us through what's going to happen tomorrow.
So there are quite a few things that will actually start tomorrow, and I'm so glad you said that, Roland. First, thank you for having me. But there are a lot of things happening, and I think folks have not been paying attention. And tomorrow is just the start. So there are things that'll happen tomorrow, but we need to be paying attention for the years to come. The biggest thing I think that I need borrowers to pay attention to is that starting tomorrow, the saving on valuable education, that SAVE plan the income-driven repayment plan that we had in place from Biden's administration is no longer. And so your loan servicer should, according to the U.S. Department of Education, give you 90 days to transition into a new repayment plan. But if you do not take action, you will be placed in a standard repayment plan. And so I think that is just one salient point I want to drive home. Beyond that, beginning tomorrow, there is no new Grad Plus loans. And so for our students in graduate school that have been making ends meet, are able to afford their graduate education with Graduate Plus loans, that is no longer the option. And another thing that I think parents may not have been paying attention to, but for borrowers that have taken out Parent Plus loans, there are changes coming to their eligibility for repayment plans as well. So I said a lot, I'll pause, but we have a lot happening, and tomorrow is just the start.
Okay, so walk us through when you talk about the Parent Plus loan, what happened there?
So with our Parent Plus loan, in order to remain eligible for any income-driven repayment plan that those loans may have been put in, before tomorrow, borrowers should have already consolidated into a direct consolidation loan. And if you would like to stay in an income-driven repayment plan, pay attention because changes are coming again July 1, 2028. And so you have about 2 years in this plan that you may be in now, but pay attention because changes are coming in 2 years. Parents who borrow new Parent Plus loans after tomorrow will no longer have access to those income-driven repayment plans. And so those parents that are thinking, if you have a scholar that's entering into their post-secondary education in the fall, that's something that you need to absolutely be mindful of as you are considering paying for your students' education.
All right, then. Questions from the panel. Win Cooney?
Yeah, so I guess my question is, how can African Americans best prepare for the inclement changes that are happening tomorrow? What would you suggest for a new student or a new parent whose child is going, to college? How do we best prepare for this shift in student loans?
Thank you so much for asking, because I spent a lot of time years ago doing research on the way that Black borrowers experience student loan debt. And so a few things quickly. For students that are entering into post-secondary programs this coming fall or starting this summer, I cannot shout it enough. Continue to search for scholarship opportunities because our student loan amounts, as we knew it before, things are changing. I think that things will continue to change. We already know that some things will be continuing to change. And so we need to begin to rethink the way in which we have been paying for school. And one of those will be to, search high and low for external and internal scholarship opportunities at the institution. I think beyond that, I want people to have a serious conversation around what are our options available to us. At the time where groceries are unaffordable, healthcare is unaffordable. We are just in a financial crisis across the nation. Folks are making hard decisions, not just on student loan repayment, but daily living expenses. And so with that being said, I think tune into the federalstudentloan.gov website. They have been doing a pretty good job at keeping us informed with options available to us and the things as they have been changing. And then there has been a myriad of think tank organizations that have been putting out pieces to keep the public informed. But this will take a community effort. This will take outreach efforts. We need to be sharing this information amongst each other. We need to be having conversations with our youth. I will say, for me personally, education changed my life. And so I'm not saying to choose not to pursue post-secondary degrees. I'm a first generation doctor in my family. I am very proud to come from humble beginnings. And I know that education played a huge part, but we have to come together as a community and start having some critical conversations about the ways in which we will, if we must borrow, you have to be more responsible than ever. And this is going to be a community and a family decision that we have to have.
Scott?
Yeah, thank you for joining us. But you're talking concepts and precepts. Got it, right? But for the average person listening to this show right now, if I'm in that system, if I've borrowed already and I'm in payback position, whether it's a Parent Plus loan or some other loan, right? Tell me the top 3 things I need to be doing after tomorrow to get myself out of this this more onerous payback plan. And if I'm going to be applying, if I'm not in the loan process, what are my alternatives versus borrowing money from the federal government that's onerous in its process for payback?
Yeah, I'll give you the examples using myself as a student loan borrower and as a parent of Black boys considering their post-secondary options. What I did specifically was I logged in to my student loan portal. So number one, you need to know who your student loan borrower your student loan owner is. As the borrower, I think we saw a lot of changes in the last year or two in terms of MOHELA taking on a lot of student loan accounts. And so folks may not know specifically who their student loan owner is. And so we need to find that out. That's number one. Number two, look at the payment plan options. The Federal Student Aid website has a simulator option where you can see they're not getting rid of all of the repayment plans. So you have an option to go in and still see what you're eligible for. And beyond that, if you find that what I'm being projected is something that I cannot afford, pick up the phone and call your student loan owner, call MOHELA, call Nelnet, call whoever has your loans and have a conversation with them and talk through those options and let them know this is where I am and they have to provide you with options. And if you don't get an answer, and I recognize that this will take time, but I think it is so important. If you don't get an answer today, call back tomorrow. We have to be diligent and persistent in order to be able to get the support that we need. Beyond that, if you are coming into your post-secondary program and you're seeing all of this happening and you don't know what that might look like, I think that, again, it's a community effort. I think we need to sit down with our school counselors. I think we need to sit down with our financial aid officers. We need to sit down with the scholarships office. There is going to have to be some very calculated and meticulous conversations happening around what is feasible and what is real, what makes sense with everything changing. And I feel like that's just the bottom line of it.
Michael?
Thank you for letting people know what time it is. We appreciate your efforts. For Roland's viewers, I'm curious about what happens tomorrow. If you can distinguish between clearly the repayment of loans, which we kind of understand. What happens for new applicants? Does anything change tomorrow relative to new applicants that are getting ready for college next fall and beyond?
Now, starting tomorrow for applicants, and so this is students that are not yet entering into repayment, yes, things are happening for them as well. For your graduate students, you need to be mindful that the loan limits, so the amounts that are eligible to be borrowed, will change starting tomorrow. On top of that, Grad Plus loans have been impacted as well. So again, like I said, students that borrow Graduate Plus loans, you will not be able to borrow even at the same amount for your educational purposes. And so again, that's a conversation of, and I have to get into the weeds to explain it, but that is a conversation of the cost of college attendance and what you are eligible for. And you need to make the financial aid office clearly explain what those differences are and if there is any implications that you might come up short with paying for your education. The same for our undergraduate students. While their loans right now for new borrowers that will be undergraduate students, while they will go relatively untouched right now, again, for Parent Plus loan borrowers. And so these are the parents that are borrowing to cover educational costs beyond what Pell Grant might cover, what institutional scholarships might cover, and what have you. There are changes there where now there's a cap of $20K per year for those Parent Plus loan, those new applications. And so again, there, I think that, and this is coming from a former financial aid administrator. And so I am telling you to bug the financial aid office. Please don't come after me with pitchforks. But the bottom line is I want new borrowers, particularly Black borrowers and our first generation students going on campus, sit with your financial aid offices and ask critical questions so that you can completely understand what's happening right now.
All right, then. Well, look, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, Supreme Court made its decision regarding temporary protected status impacting 350,000 Haitians and 6,000 Somalis. And, of course, we've had to deal with J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, advancing the lies about Haitians eating animals. Well, that didn't sit too well with Ohio Congresswoman Shontel Brown, so she took to the House floor just to get something off her chest.
Mr. Speaker, as often the case with the current occupant of the White House, it all started with a lie. Nearly 2 years ago, J.D. Vance got up off his couch and tweeted a racist smear that Haitians in Springfield, Ohio were eating cats and dogs. Days later, Donald Trump shamelessly repeated it at a presidential debate. They knew it was a lie. They knew those families were here legally. They knew they were working, raising children, paying taxes, and helping rebuild a community. None of that mattered. Because the point was never to tell the truth. The point was to make Americans fear Haitians, to turn them into scapegoats, to convince the country that Black immigrants were the source of their problems. J.D. Vance admitted that he was willing to, and I quote, create stories to advance his political agenda. And we all saw what happened next. Springfield was terrorized, schools were closed, bomb threats poured in, white supremacists descended on the city. So families lived in fear because two of the most powerful politicians in America decided that a racist smear was politically useful. They never apologized. Instead, they spent 2 years putting that lie to work and turning it into government policy. And now that campaign of fear is the official policy of our government. Last week, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to terminate the temporary protected status, also known as TPS, for hundreds of thousands of Haitians. Not because Haiti is safe, not because the facts have changed, but because this administration wants more people for ICE to deport. Haiti remains consumed by political collapse and humanitarian disaster. The conditions that justified the TPS still exist. And these are people who care for our seniors, build our community, and pay billions in taxes. They followed the rules, they trusted the American promise, and now they're being told that a racist political narrative matters more than the law they followed to a T. This is not who we are, America. The House has already passed a bill extending TPS because the facts demand it and because decency requires it. Now the Senate must pass it before the mass deportation tears lives and communities apart, all because of a racist, reckless, bigoted, blatant, dishonest, and disgusting campaign lie. Mr. Speaker, while families are struggling to keep up with rising prices for food, housing, gas, and utilities, this president is focused on something else entirely different: himself. He's spending taxpayer dollars on a lavish White House ballroom. He's tearing up the reflecting pool for another vanity project. He's putting his name and image on anything he can. While Americans are tightening their belts, Donald Trump is building monuments to himself. And 1 year later, Republicans are still celebrating what they call the president's signature legislative achievement. That law ripped health care away from millions of Americans, cut food assistance for families and children, made it harder to afford college, all to hand out massive tax breaks to the wealthiest people in America. It was a transfer of wealth from working people to wealthy people. 17 million Americans have lost health care. More than 4 million Americans, including 800,000 children, have already lost access to basic food assistance. Meanwhile, the wealthiest, 0.1% received tax cuts worth nearly $250,000 just last year. So I'll ask a simple question. How has Trump's big ugly law helped the American people? Because as far as I can tell, it's just welfare for the wealthy and well-connected. Meanwhile, we've gotten higher prices, higher inflation, slower job growth, and an economy that works even better for those already on top. Republicans called it the one big beautiful bill. I call it a big ugly law, because there is nothing beautiful about taking health care and food away from families to pay for tax cuts for billionaires. So, happy anniversary to Trump's signature achievement. 1 year later, the verdict is in. Working families paid the price, and the wealthiest Americans cashed the check. And with that, I yield back.
Well said. And I'm glad she actually said it. All right, those of you based here in D.C., have y'all been paying attention to what's going on the National Mall or the lack thereof? This has actually been hilarious. The Freedom 250 people, they put out this video. Clearly it's AI, because they ain't had this many people showing up to nothing. Oh hell yeah, this is all AI. So they've been, first of all, you know that there are many black people in this video. So they've been promoting the Great American State Fair, a 16-day World's Fair on the National Mall, uniting all 56 states and territories. Okay. It has actually been utterly abysmal. Michael, Winconi, and Scott, have y'all had an opportunity to drop by?
I have not.
No.
Okay, let me show you this here. So TMZ posted.
In fact,
TMZ posted this. Dr. Oz on stage with Dean Cain talks about. Don't go yet. Hold on. Let me read. Talks about how great the crowd is at the Great American State Fair. The reporter, they pan his camera. So again, they said, oh my God, this is an amazing crowd. Watch.
Huge space, and it's just going to get more and more crowded as the week goes on.
Not only do we have a lot of people here, we have people that you want to have, like Stacey Garrity. That woman's going to be next governor of Pennsylvania.
There
right
we
there.
go.
Yep, look at her, that beautiful red hair.
And it's because there's tons of people here. It's a huge space, and it's just going to get more and more crowded as the week goes on.
Yeah, it's a huge space, but it's not going to get crowded as the week goes on.
There's room to grow.
Oh yeah, it's a whole lot of room to grow. I've been absolutely been just cracking up. Oh, hold up, and you know we got to sit here and go to white nationalist TV, Fox News. Listen to them describe the massive crowd that's on the mall. Listen.
Well, I'm John Roberts. Good to be back with you again here in Washington.
Back with you. It's even warmer today than yesterday.
But it's a dry heat. That's the great thing about Washington.
It's a dry heat. All right, I'll take that. I'm Sandra Smith, and this is America Reports. Back live with you again from the Great American top of the new hour. Right now, America Reports is live from the Great American State Fair as the country continues celebrating its 250th birthday.
Thank you for having me.
To have you here. It is sunny, it is hot, but it is a celebration indeed.
It is wonderful. I mean, it's just unbelievable to see people out here enjoying the city.
Did you stop by the Louisiana?
No, that's where I'm headed next.
Okay, next you and the First Lady will head
Of days. Where we're at right now is actually called the National Mall. It's been renamed, of course, the Great American State Fair. We have all 50 nifty United States and 6 territories being represented here. It's an awesome, awesome display of what makes America so amazing and so beautiful, right? But the problem is that there's hundreds, if not thousands of folks here, and that heat is going to become a...
Dude. I'm sorry. He just said hundreds of that. Can I zoom? Maybe he's talking about blades of grass.
Oh God.
I'm trying to see. When Coney, do you see the hundreds of thousands of people?
I certainly don't. I think this is what the kids are calling delusional. This is delusion. But we didn't expect too much more from a brother on Fox News, though. So hey.
Yeah. Michael, you have any thoughts?
You know, it's interesting. One of my sons is a huge soccer fan and wanted to be dropped off downtown to get to the mall because they've been showing some of the World Cup games. And when I went down to pick them up, it was interesting. I know some of us, I don't want to give any particular restaurants on that end of Pennsylvania Avenue any free advertising time, but a couple of those restaurants, Scott and Roland, I was able to actually park near one of those restaurants. And I said, well, I don't understand. The crowd for the World Cup was packed because you could see folks in their jerseys and their flags. But going into the, whatever the thing is called that they're having, there was nobody going in that particular gate. And so it's just, that footage is actually telling the truth. What other AI stuff they want to put out there, that is not the truth.
Yeah. Here's another vantage point from the Fox News studio on site. Check this out.
Early birthday, America. We're celebrating already at the Great American State Fair. Man, we've got thousands of people celebrating this birthday with us, Tommy. You and I had a chance to go out. We got to see some of the exhibits. I'm sure you got what I got, which was a lot of people going, hey, love to watch it on Fox. I hope a lot of them left.
Listen. Mary Catherine Ham, Tommy Lauren, Kevin Court. Y'all know that's some bullshit homeboy just said. Y'all know Joey Jones' line. They said thousands of people. I'm like, let me tell y'all how bad. You could actually count the number. Matter of fact, we could do this right here. Hold on. My microphone just fell. I'm so damn embarrassed by these dumb asses. We could count. We could literally count the number of people in this video frame. Do y'all know how bad that is? I doubt very seriously when they shot this video, it was 200 people out there. I doubt it was 200. Ain't nobody going to this trash, Scott.
You know, the other thing is this. Not only is it under-attended or not well-attended, we'll have to see. The weekend may be better.
No, it won't.
But the cost of putting on this Great American Fair is coming out of our tax dollars.
Yep.
And no one's there. But more importantly, the financial impact of businesses and performance around the mall or in downtown DC. My firm, who's at 13th and K, we've gone 100% remote because of the anticipated crowds for the next 3 or 4 days.
Hey, dog. Hey, listen. All y'all can go back to the office.
So a lot of the law firms are on remote. I said the same thing. I went into the office today. I said, hey, this is cool. There's no traffic and stuff.
All y'all can go. Listen.
I was gonna come back downtown.
We 3 blocks from your office, and I ain't had.
You're closer than I am.
I ain't had no problem parking. I mean, we had no problem. If y'all want more laughs, this guy Aaron Rupar, he put together every Fox News live shot from Trump's post-rapture-like state fair on the National Mall. Y'all, this is the funniest thing you're going to see today. That is not a World Cup soccer field. That's the National Mall. Okay, here we go.
Wow, that was a beautiful sight. We're kicking off a week of special shows celebrating America's 250th live from the Great American Fair.
Mark, great to see you here today. There's a lot of energy down there. What's the latest?
Sandra, it sure is, and welcome back to Washington. So good to see you personally. As you've seen yourself, there is a big energy here on the National Mall. The crowd sizes were smaller in the morning. It has picked up quite a bit. The State Fair generating a lot of headlines, and we have seen more people come to see it for themselves, including right to the Ferris wheel. You'll zoom in here and see the crowds that are lined up for a chance to see Washington unlike any other way. But people told us this isn't about politics, but a chance to celebrate what America offers coast to coast. And this morning, 4 younger Americans put their stomachs to the test with a pancake eating contest. That's tough on any day, let alone in this kind of heat. The winner was determined by audience applause. The guy who won appeared really worried he wasn't going to be able to keep the pancakes down, but in the end, he made it. Today,
Mr. Secretary,
yeah,
thanks for inviting us.
I haven't seen the elephant food booth yet, though. I've seen the elephant sandwiches.
So each day has got a theme. Today's theme is Make America Healthy Again, and I'm wondering, how does a pancake eating contest comport with Make America?
No red food dyes, right? It's just all natural ingredients.
All natural. Eggs, milk, butter. What else do you need?
Great American State Fair.
Not to help me out. I want to be a part of this.
Well, it's a great day for it, Larry. Good afternoon. Perhaps now the closing bell is here. We're going to get more people coming out here now that work is done. You mentioned the latest with Iran. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are on a flight to Qatar right now to meet after a lot of back and forth between U.S. and Iranian forces over the Strait of Hormuz and keeping that open. But here on the National Mall, not a lot of talk about Iran, as you can imagine, although, Larry, just in a few minutes behind me where the rodeo is going to start again. Some people say riding a bull is a lot like dealing with Iran. You got to hang on for dear life, and you never know how it's going to go. But people we've talked to out here having a good time, very patriotic bunch, as you can imagine, seeing something a little different. And that's the National Mall turned into the Great American State.
He said there's not a lot of talk out here about Iran. It ain't a lot of talk, period, 'cause ain't nobody out there. Yo.
Roland, why don't you? Never mind. I'm not even going to suggest that. I don't
go,
want to hear you.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, let's you, me, and my colleagues. Let's go down there tomorrow and broadcast outside. It's a great state fair.
Nah, I pass up Klan rallies.
I know. That's why I wasn't going to even recommend it. But it's first of all, the weather's not cooperating with them. It's going to be 120 degrees in D.C. this week and over the weekend. That's not even healthy. And while the layout seems very interesting, the folks aren't there. And it's the week of the 4th of July. The 4th is on Saturday, I think. So very few people are working this week leading up to the 4th. So I'm a little surprised that the crowds aren't better. But We'll see. Or maybe we won't. We won't see.
Because ain't nobody going to that bullshit. Okay, all right. This just in. So apparently, and this has been reported, we've said this consistently, that what we are witnessing is one of the most absolutely corrupt administrations ever. Not one of these. It is the most corrupt. Well, Donald Trump is reporting, this is what's crazy, that last year alone, he made more than $1 billion through crypto. If you want to talk about somebody who is, y'all, this is how him and his family's made more than $1 billion. There's a new mineral rights deal with another country where his children and a cabinet member's son could make $1 billion. It is now, it ain't even a secret anymore. They're saying that if you want a pardon, all you got to do is pay anywhere from $2 million to $6 million. You got it.
Yeah.
This is, without a doubt, a corrupt administration. And this is also why Mike Johnson and Republicans are scared. This is why Donald Trump is scared to death of Democrats winning the House, Michael, because he knows his ass getting impeached.
Yeah.
He knows it because all the illegal crap he's doing.
And if he doesn't get impeached, because I know there are some folks in leadership that aren't big fans of impeachment, but nonetheless, there will be investigations, subpoenas, people have to come and testify under oath. So all the accountability stuff relative to oversight, that will happen. And they are frightened and terrified of that. And obviously, depending on what happens with the Senate, so that's why some of the leadership aren't big fans of impeachment, because if you go through that whole process and he goes to the Senate and still gets acquitted, why go through it all? Now, who knows how people change after November. But nonetheless, the investigations, the subpoenas, testifying under oath, and having some real accountability of how things are being, how money, taxpayer dollars are being spent, that's what they're frustrated about. And can you imagine the House Oversight Committee, Government Oversight Committee, relative to what you just talked about, the drifting of contracts and the kind of things they're doing corruption-wise will clearly be under investigation.
It's just, I mean, the right-wing media will be going bonkers, nuts. They would be bleeding. They would just, their heads would explode, Cooning, just explode if Joe Biden made $1 billion a year in crypto. Oh, by the way, the people who invested in the same crypto, they lost $2 billion.
Ain't nothing but a little bit of insider trading. That's all, Roland. And you know we're not going to put him in jail for that. He knows that he can do whatever he wants at this point. You know what I mean? So he's like, why stop now? I'm going to make sure that I'm filthy rich. My kids are filthy rich. My cabinet members' kids are filthy rich. I mean, again, no surprise here. I'm just more surprised that America's not embarrassed and not trying to hide or cover this up at all. Like, I mean, the level of corruption in this administration is sky high, and it doesn't even seem like they give a damn on trying to convince people that it's not, which is why I'm concerned. I'm like, wow, so we don't even care about trying to pull the wool over people's eyes anymore. We're just doing this here out in the open. But that is the reality of a Trump presidency.
Oh, my goodness. Look, CNBC, this is reporting that Trump bought millions in Axon stock 2 weeks before ICE sought a $220 million deal to buy more tasers from Axon. He is literally buying stock in companies, and then he traded last year nearly $2 billion in stock trades right before he makes announcements regarding those companies.
Yeah, but wait a minute now. Let's not forget. I'm surprised you ain't say this, Roland. Go back to the U.S. Supreme Court. Supreme Court decision a year ago.
Yep.
A little over a year ago said what? It ain't illegal if he's the president. As the executive, there's nothing he does that's illegal if he's done in the name of the president or the White House or the executive administration. So y'all shouldn't be surprised at this. He gonna make more money. He's protected. And the DOJ just said, he never gonna have an IRS audit for him and his friends and family. They can't be challenged on whatever they file. I mean, man, this is a legal grift. It's legal grift. They're legal grifters, dog. This would be the greatest white-collar client you could ever have. You'd never lose if you were a white-collar criminal defense lawyer like me.
Again, all you got,
this is legal.
If you got a
legal.
If you got a client that wants a pardon, pony up $2 million and you got it. He is selling out everything. All right,
these gangsters. See, these are gangsters. We keep trying to deal with them as politicians. These are political gangsters. Where are the Democratic political gangsters? They need to run for office. They need to be in office. Michael, I know what I'm talking about. I represent defenders all the time. We keep acting like they're politicians. These are political gangsters. So where are the Democratic political gangsters? Calling all Democratic political gangsters to the front.
Yeah. All right, that is it for Win Coney, Michael, Scott, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right, folks, that's it for us. Tomorrow, as I said, I'm going to be broadcasting live from Fort Lauderdale, where We the People will have We the People Coalition will have their gospel concert and panel engagement. That's going to be 6:30 to 9:30, and so we'll have a shortened show, and then we'll go right into that particular panel. And so an engaging, critical conversation is happening tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. Folks, you want to support the work that we do, join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to support, please do so via Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's for Cash App. And credit cards as well. And so again, if you want to use the Stripe QR code, all you got to do is just go right there and contribute, and we certainly would appreciate that. If you are checks and money order, you want to go to P.O. Box. First of all, make it out to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037 -0196. PayPal is paypal.me/R Martin Unfiltered. Now, if you want to use Venmo, you can do Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered, or this is the QR code right here for Venmo donations. And so you can just pay right there. I would appreciate that. And that's all you got to do. And of course, Zelle, Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. You want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag? All you got to do is go to ShopBlackStarNetwork.com. All those hats and T-shirts, all that good stuff. You go to ShopBlackStarNetwork.com, and so you see a QR code there as well. All the products that you see right here in our studio, these products are all, of course, available on ShopBlackStarNetwork.com. These are all black-owned companies that are on ShopBlackStarNetwork.com, so you name it. So go to our marketplace, you get to peruse all of the products, and you can check it out. And when you go to ShopBlackStarNetwork.com, we got our own America at 250 stuff that you can purchase, and so let's show those products. You can check it out. So we were real clear. If you look at our shirts right here. No, go back. You're too fast. Go back. This first shirt said, "This is our home, and this is our country. Beneath its soil lie bones of our fathers. For it, some of them fought, bled, and died. Here we were born, and here we will stay." That is a quote from Paul Robeson. Let's go to the next one. That's right. "Be true to what you said on paper." That was a quote from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. First of all, okay, let's go to the next one. All right, you see it right here. Here are the bags as well. Keep going. What else we got? Let's show the next one. That's right. "I love America more than any other country in this world. And exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. It's a quote from James Baldwin. All right. We're not here to bring politics to our morality, but to bring morality to our politics. Bob Moses said this in 1964, one of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party leaders and SNCC leaders, and we are not fully free. Freedom is a work in progress, all right? What else we got? Same thing with the handbag and t-shirt. And so if you go to our marketplace segment, you will see all of those products right there at shopblackstarnetwork.com. All right, y'all. Shout out to Bowie State. I am repping Bowie State today. I got their shirt on. And so last week they had a polo, so I just got this t-shirt. So I don't have a Bowie State polo, but we rocking this one here. And of course, Bowie State got the right colors, being black and gold. So we appreciate that as well. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!
Hey boy, would you meet me